Garry Lineker's career as both a footballer and a sports presenter has spanned decades. But the one thing that pushed him out of his job was Israel. The campaign against Garry Lineker has been vicious and lengthy and led by the UK Lawyers for Israel group. But who are they? The head of the UK Lawyers for Israel, Jonathan Turner, went on record stating that the blockade of Gaza could cause a decrease in obesity. The UK Lawyers for Israel also pushed a London hospital to remove artwork by children from Gaza and worked to edit textbooks for children in school and increase the amount of times the word terrorist was used to refer to Palestinians. When the UK Lawyers for Israel was first registered with Companies House in 2010, the original name for the grouping was Action for Peace Limited. But who was behind the foundation of this group? In May 2011, a page on the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs website announced the creation of UK Lawyers for Israel. In June 2012, the UK Lawyers for Israel hosted a seminar for 2 days with both the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Israeli Embassy in London. In January 2013, the UK LFI hosted Arthur Lenk of the legal division of the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Caroline Kendall, an employee of the UK Lawyers for Israel in August 2015, stated, "As an organisation, we won't seek out publicity. We only want to be effective, and often it's operating below the radar and actually not publicly." Curiously, in 2016 September, the UK Lawyers for Israel registered as a charity. And again, in January 2017, the UK LFI hosted a talk with the former Deputy Director of the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Jonathan Turner, the head of the UK LFI, also claimed that they played a key role in stopping the Gaza flotilla in 2011, advising the Greek police on ways they could arrest the activists on that ship. While doing so, they worked alongside an Israeli law firm by the name of Shorat Hadin. A leaked US Embassy cable stated that Shorat Hadin took direction directly from Israeli external intelligence agency Mossad on which cases they should take legal action over. However, there is another very key aspect to this story which has not been dealt with seriously. The employer of Garry Lineker was the BBC, but as I will demonstrate, the BBC is an entirely penetrated organisation. Meet Robbie Gibb. According to the BBC, Robbie Gibb is responsible for upholding and protecting the independence of the BBC by acting in the public interest and exercising independent judgment. Let's not forget that Robbie Gibb was the head of communications for British Prime Minister Theresa May. After that, he went on to head a consortium that took ownership of the Jewish Chronicle, but has not told journalists where the money came from for the procuring of the Jewish Chronicle. This consortium also featured John Woodcock, formerly the head of Labour Friends of Israel, and Jonathan Sakadotti, formerly head of the UK Zionist Federation. And until August of last year, Robbie Gibb was registered as the sole director and owner of the Jewish Chronicle. The Jewish Chronicle has been found to publish fake news, seemingly at the behest of the Israeli Prime Minister's office. But the connections between the BBC and Israel really do not stop there. Who is the man behind the headlines that you so often see from the BBC, where the passive voice is used to describe Palestinians killed by the Israeli army? That man is none other than BBC online editor Rafi Berg. Rafi Berg not only published a book in collaboration with Israeli intelligence agents about their operations, he then went on to take a picture of himself with Israeli ambassador Mark Regev and frame it on his wall. Once his book was published, Benjamin Netanyahu openly and publicly praised it. And Rafi Berg took the letter he was sent by Netanyahu and framed it on his wall also. In fact, he was so enthusiastic about this support from Netanyahu that he tweeted Netanyahu's son telling him of his father's support for the book. This is clearly a partisan actor. How is it conceivable that he could be the online editor for the BBC on the issue of Gaza? The BBC stands for the British Broadcasting Corporation, but it's clear that they are doing a lot of work to support Israel during this genocide.
Denying access to food is collective punishment, and that we should all be clear in saying that.
Israel will argue, obviously, that it has a right to defend itself.
And we are continuing that process until we end the starvation.
And, of course, you will know that Israel says its policy is not one of starvation.
This is a genocide happening in front of our eyes.
That word is, as you know, incredibly emotive, and the Israelis, as you know, will be saying that they are targeting Hamas only.
Preservation of life is the #1 priority, and after 15 months of genocidal assault.
I don't want to go down the avenue around genocide.
The Labour Party, of all political parties, which has always had a strong peace contingent within it, is now actually supporting genocide.
OK, if we could maybe just avoid that language, if that's OK.
All this talk of impartiality, where was that when the BBC hired Eli Ovitz? Eli Ovitz claimed to be working as a spokesman for the Israeli military at the same time as being a producer for the BBC. And BBC editor Mark Berg went from working for the BBC, editing key programs, to then becoming the director of Israel's largest lobby group in this country, BICOM, which directly targets BBC journalists. After working for several years as a director at BICOM, he went back to working for the BBC, including BBC Hard Talk, the show which supposedly holds powerful people to account. How is it possible that an institution like the BBC, which supposedly exists to serve the public interest and goes to great length to state its impartiality, could have so many people associated with it who are pro-Israel to this extent? The BBC has pushed out one of their most popular stars of all time in order to satisfy the Israel lobby, while at the same time censoring a documentary about Gaza's healthcare system. Where is the right-wing media, which supposedly supports free speech and is against cancel culture? The mainstream media is claiming that Garry Lineker was pushed out following a backlash, as if you and me want him gone from the BBC, when actually this was a manufactured backlash by both the Israel lobby and the mainstream media in order to finally get rid of him. Supposedly, a reposted Instagram story caused significant distress. Let's not forget that Israel and its supporters have a history of using rat tropes to refer to Palestinians. It's one side that is dehumanizing the other. Israel is decapitating children and starving people, demolishing hospitals, schools, and places of religious worship on an industrial scale, wiping Gaza off the map forever. And Garry Lineker and his tweets are the problem? Ask yourself, why did Garry Lineker have to be silenced?
I know where I stand on this. I'm sorry, it's more important than what the BBC, what's going on there is, the mass murder of thousands of children is probably something that we should have a little opinion on.
But the BBC as a whole needs to be impartial about it.
Why? It needs to be factual.
It's not about anti-Semitism at all. It's about taking down a popular mainstream figure for the crime of opposing the killing of children on an industrial scale. The tide is turning, and as the hand of history moves, the more desperate those who are on the wrong side of it will become. Every time one person is shut down, you reveal more to the world your desperation to stifle the truth, and many more will rise in his place because the tide is turning and history is not on your side. The BBC is supposed to be journalism in public interest, but in 2025 we can see very clearly that that role has switched to independent media like Double Down News. It would be extremely difficult to publish information like this anywhere else. So please support Double Down News with everything you can and join their Patreon now.